You're standing in line at Chipotle. You already know what you want. The real question isn't whether you want the guacamole. You absolutely do. The question is whether the math allows it today. And you're doing that math silently, in your head, right there in line. Now picture Benzie. Same age as you, works similar hours, but last Tuesday she saw a cheap flight to Austin, bought the ticket on the spot, didn't think about it again until she packed her bag. No math, no hesitation, just gone for the weekend. Here's what I need you to understand. Those two people are not living different versions of the same life. They are living completely different lives. And the distance between them isn't luck. It isn't some enormous salary gap. It is one specific, measurable threshold. And researchers have actually identified exactly where it sits. My name is Host, and today we're finding that number. But first, if you're new here, welcome to Money Momentum. Hit that subscribe button now because this channel is where financial reality actually gets spoken out loud. Before we find the threshold, we need to be brutally honest about where most people are standing on the income ladder, because almost everyone misreads their own position, and that misreading is expensive. The median household income in America right now is $83,730. That's not one person. That's everyone under that roof combined. The median individual full-time worker earns around $62,000. So when a couple says we're comfortable, we make six figures together, they are describing a household income that is essentially average. Not rich, not struggling, just median. Pew Research puts roughly 30% of Americans in a low-income household earning under $56,000 combined. The core middle class runs $75,000 to $125,000. Only about 10% of households crack $250,000. And here's the stat financial media almost never mentions. 42.8% of American households now earn over $100,000, which sounds like a nation of comfortable people until you run the actual monthly numbers city by city. Smart Asset did exactly that. A $100,000 salary in Manhattan carries the real purchasing power of roughly $30,000. Same paycheck, completely different life. So the real question we're answering today isn't what does your salary say? It's at what income does money start working for you instead of the other way around? Before we go further, if this is already making you think, do me a quick favor and hit that like button and subscribe to Money Momentum right now. It genuinely helps this channel reach people who need to hear this. Back to it. Meet Roger. He's 29. He works in logistics operations for a regional shipping company outside Atlanta. He earns $38,000 a year, which, after federal taxes, state taxes, and FICA, gives him about $2,375 a month in actual take-home pay. That's the whole board. Now watch what happens to it. Rent in the Atlanta suburbs, $1,100. Utilities, $175. Roger needs a car because nothing is walkable and the jobs aren't on a bus route. So that's $350 for a used car payment, $300 for insurance and gas. Groceries on a tight budget, $370. Phone and internet because you literally cannot function professionally without them, $120. Health insurance employee share, $130. Student loans on income-driven repayment, $300. Total, $2,845. Take-home, $2,375. Roger is spending $470 more than he earns before he's bought a single coffee, paid a copay, or covered one unexpected expense. This is not bad budgeting. This is arithmetic refusing to cooperate no matter how disciplined he is. And here's what that actually feels like. I want you to sit with this. It feels like scanning your groceries and keeping a running total in your head, quietly putting the nice shampoo back when the number gets too close. It feels like telling your friends you're not really hungry when they suggest a restaurant, because that's less painful than admitting you can't cover an appetizer. The system also has a very specific relationship with Roger at this income level. Overdraft fees hit hardest when you can't maintain a balance. Payday lenders charge 300% APR to people who can't wait 2 weeks. Rent-to-own furniture extract double the retail price from people who can't pay up front. The less money you have in America, the more expensive everything becomes. That's not a flaw in the system. That is the system's business model at this tier. Fast forward, Roger earns $65,000. Take-home jumps to $4,252 a month. The budget can now technically balance. He exhales for the first time in 5 years. But the bills have crept up with him. A slightly nicer apartment, $1,350. More reliable car, $400. Student loans don't care about his raise, still $400. After a disciplined budget and contributing enough to his 401k to capture his employer match, Roger has about $317 left a month. A 3-month emergency fund builds in under a year, assuming nothing goes wrong for a year and a half, and something will. The check engine light comes on, $800. Roger has $317 of monthly surplus. The credit card comes out, not because Roger is irresponsible, because the margin is so thin that one imperfect month breaks the entire math. Then Roger hits $100,000, 6 figures, the milestone everyone treats like a finish line. Take home, $6,158 a month. That's roughly $2,160 per month than he made at $65,000. Let that breathe for a second. A $35,000 raise, and after taxes, it became $1,960 per month. File that away. Now the budget holds. A 2-bedroom or starter home mortgage, $1,800. Groceries, a real car that works, a real life, all manageable. After expenses and a solid 401k contribution, Roger has about $755 left a month. A 3-month emergency fund builds in under a year. He can absorb a financial shock without spiraling. And here's the milestone nobody talks about enough. For the first time, Roger wakes up in the morning and doesn't immediately think about money. The absence of financial dread is itself a form of wealth. Most Americans never experience it. But Roger is still not rich. If he lives in Seattle, Denver, or D.C., that $1,800 rent is probably $2,800, and the budget collapses again. $100,000 is like being a strong swimmer in a current. You're no longer drowning, you're making real progress, but you're still swimming. At $150,000, something fundamentally shifts. This is the real threshold, not $75,000, not the mythologized 6 figures. $150,000 is where Roger stops trading time for survival and starts trading time for actual freedom. The compounding math is no longer theoretical. A 35-year-old who maxes their 401k and invests an additional $1,000 a month into a basic index fund, consistent, automated, boring, is looking at roughly $2.2 million by age 65. Not because they're a genius, not because they got lucky, because they finally had enough margin to let time do the math. Here's the finding that made me stop and stare at my screen. Goldman Sachs surveyed Americans on paycheck-to-paycheck living across every income bracket. What they found was not what anyone expected. Among households earning $200,000 to $300,000, just 16% live paycheck to paycheck. That's the sweet spot, the most financially stable bracket in America. Then you look at $300,000 to $500,000, the rate jumps back up to 41%. And above $500,000, 40%, the exact same rate as households earning under $50,000. Let that land. People earning $500,000 a year and people earning $45,000 a year are financially stressed at essentially identical rates. The two ends of the American income spectrum, mirror images of each other. This isn't a story about income. It's a story about lifestyle inflation, the invisible, perfectly efficient force that expands to consume every dollar you earn, regardless of how many dollars that is. At $45,000, you spend everything because you have to. At $500,000, you spend everything because your brain has quietly reclassified a $4,500 car payment, $42,000 per year private school tuition, and a vacation home as just what people at your level do. There's even a Federal Reserve study showing that when someone in a neighborhood wins a large sum of money, the bankruptcy rates of their neighbors go up. Visible wealth triggers visible spending. More money doesn't automatically create more security. It creates a higher floor of spending required to just feel normal. The $200,000 to $300,000 window is special precisely because it's the brief moment where income has outrun the lifestyle arms race. It's the narrow gap between enough and a more expensive version of not enough. So where is the threshold, the actual one, based on real savings data? Between $100,000 and $150,000 in household income adjusted for where you live. Below it, the system runs you. Fixed costs consume everything. You are perpetually one piece of bad luck from a complete reset. Above it, you start running the system. The margin compounds. The compounding produces something that actually resembles wealth. But here's the most important truth in this entire video. The threshold is a doorway, not a destination. Walking through it doesn't make you automatically secure. What makes you secure is keeping your fixed costs below your income and holding that line while the difference quietly accumulates in boring index funds for 20 or 30 years. And as for happiness, Killingsworth and Kahneman, two researchers who famously disagreed on this for a decade, published a joint paper in 2023. Their combined finding, for about 80% of people, happiness keeps rising with income at every level, with no ceiling. But for the unhappiest 20%, those dealing with serious depression, grief, or broken relationships, happiness stops climbing at around $100,000 to $110,000. Beyond that, a bigger paycheck doesn't touch what's actually wrong. You cannot lifestyle creep your way out of a mental health crisis. The paycheck is not the variable. The gap is. And the gap is always a choice, except at the income tiers where the math flatly refuses to cooperate no matter how disciplined you are. And that's the part the system never tells you. Below a certain income, the game is genuinely rigged. Above it, the only thing rigging it is you. Here's your one action before you close this video. Open your bank account right now. Add up every fixed cost. Rent or mortgage, car payment, insurance, loans, subscriptions, everything that leaves whether you feel like it or not. Then look at your take-home. That gap is the only financial number that actually matters. Everything else, the salary, the title, the house, is scenery. Roger started with guacamole math. The question is what you start with and what you build from here. If this video shifted how you think about money, hit that like button. It takes 1 second and it helps more people find this content. And if you're not subscribed to Money Momentum yet, now is the time. We break down real financial data in a way that actually makes sense. No fluff, no get rich quick, just the math they don't teach you. We'll see you in the next one.